Science behind it. Global warming is long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. This is primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels. Thermal expansion is water expanding when it warms. Melting of land, glaciers and ice sheets. Human activities such as cutting down tropical forests and greenhouse gas emissions. Why are scientists so concerned about rising sea levels? Because it can contaminate our drinking water, it interferes with farming and agriculture, changes our coastal plant life, threatens wildlife populations, and hurts the economy.
Most of the world's sea ice is located in Antarctica and Greenland. Sea ice melting and freezing has fluctuated throughout history. 10,000 years ago, the most dramatic period of ice melting occurred with the sea level rising 2 to 6 meters. This diagram shows temperature changes throughout different periods of history. Presently, around 280 gigatons of ice are melted in the sea in Greenland alone every single year, which is an alarming rate as a gigaton is a billion metric tons. The sea level has risen 6 to 8 inches in the past century, and 95% of the oldest and thickest Antarctic ice is already melted. If all remaining glaciers and ice caps melted, the sea level would rise by more than 195 feet, which would cause catastrophic flooding. Even with intervention, by the 2100, 1/3 of the world's sea ice would be melted into the ocean. This diagram shows the trajectory of sea levels within the next century. The sea level is currently projected to be rising 2 to 3 feet, a concerning amount. However, this could be mitigated.
Local level consequences. Wildlife. Ice melting can cause habitat loss for animals such as polar bears, walruses, Arctic foxes, snowy owls, reindeers, etc. Those who don't thrive in previous ecosystems will relocate, potentially becoming invasive to other organisms. Damage to local ecosystems. The loss of coastal wetlands, mangroves, and other habitats will disrupt local food webs and wildlife populations, impacting the livelihoods of food security, coastal communities, etc. Global level consequences. As the temperature rises, permafrost starts to thaw. Frozen organic matter decays due to thawing. The decayed organic matter releases CO2 and CH4 into the atmosphere, which then results in global temperatures rising once again. Human-level consequences. Rising sea levels pose as a threat to coastal communities and islands, increasing the risk of catastrophic flooding and devastation. Additionally, storm surges during extreme weather events intensify the vulnerability of these regions.
These are the root of ice caps melting and sea levels rising. 3 ways that we contribute are the amount of greenhouse gases we emit yearly, partaking in deforestation, and the amount of carbon dioxide put into the atmosphere due to use of transportation. Greenhouse gases are gases in the Earth's atmosphere that are responsible for trapping heat inside. They come from burning fossil fuels for electricity, heat, and transportation. The amount of fossil fuels burned have increased more rapidly since the Industrial Revolution. The areas with the most drastic change in temperature are the North and South Poles. Glaciers are melting rapidly and calving into the ocean. In the past 100 years, sea levels have increased by about 6 inches. Trees are responsible for absorbing and storing carbon dioxide that is in the atmosphere and releasing oxygen for humans to breathe. When humans cut down or burn trees to free up land for growing crops, raising livestock, or to build settlements, this carbon dioxide is released back into the atmosphere in great amounts. Transportation is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. Main contributors are boats, trains, cars, trucks. Highway vehicles such as cars and trucks emit about 1.5 billion tons of greenhouse gases each year. To give you a little better understanding of how much that is, it's about 10,000 fully loaded airplanes. The graph to the right, created by the United States Environmental Agency, shows the million metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year. During the pandemic in 2020, people were forced to stay at home and unable to travel, on airplanes and very few in cars. More people rode bikes places rather than driving. You can see this in the graph as the line declines from 2019 to 2020.
Adapting is one potential solution to rising sea levels. Some adaptation measures we can implement are coastal protection/flood barriers, natural coastal protection, and improve climate-resilient urban planning. Managed retreat and warning systems are other possible solutions that will help with safety from rising sea levels. The best way to combat rising sea levels is to stop it at the root of the problem, which is why taking mitigation measures will be better for the planet in the long run. We can combat global warming, the main problem of rising sea levels, by decreasing our carbon footprint. Here are some ways we can decrease our carbon footprint. The first way is to transition to renewable resources in order to burn less fossil. Another way is to take carbon from the atmosphere and store it underground. Cutting down less trees and planting more trees will also help reduce the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Lastly, sustainable practices will help reduce our carbon footprint.